another episode of Questionable Personalities. I'm Alex. As always, with me is Boris. And this week we have Mistress Schari, Dominatrix and Kink Educator with us. Welcome.
Thank you.
Mistress.
Yes. Don't forget that either.
How do you want to go with this? Do you want to go chronologically, how you got into this? Or do you want to, we're in your, well, what would you call this area that we're in?
I call this either my session room or my play space.
Okay.
Not the office.
No, well, my kid thinks it's the office, but my play space or my session room. I just call it my private spot. Anything that will, get them to pay. Whatever you want to call it, it's fine with me.
And I don't know, I guess we could talk about, what people might see here, might not see in the background.
Okay. Well, it's specifically designed to look more like a boudoir or a bedroom. Like, I didn't want it to look like a dungeon, much to my landlord's dismay. Young guy. And he's like, I thought this was going to look more like a dungeon. I'm like, honey, people who come to see me, they don't want to go to jail. They want to come to my bedroom. And that's the truth. Most of my clients are older, so they want to feel like they're doing something naughty, not actually getting in trouble for it. So, the idea that it looks like a bedroom made more sense. And my inspiration for it was actually Madeline Kahn's dressing room in Blazing Saddles.
Really?
Well, hers is all pink, but I just did mine all purple. But it's the feathers and the roses, all of that. If you look, that's how her dressing room is. And she had a vanity table.
Yeah.
It's just everything was pink. And, I'm not really a pink person, so I did it all in purple and black. And, so it has a little bit of a goth appeal, has a little bit of a metal appeal. It kind of appeals to everyone who comes in here.
Yeah.
Because everybody can kind of get behind purple. That's just one of those universal
Especially
colors.
Prince.
Yeah. And, I'm not going to date myself, so there.
Yeah, it's sad when all your favorite rock guys are dead.
Yeah, it is sad. Or, can't go on tour because they're getting hip replacement surgery or
Their ortho shoes.
Yeah, heart surgery, like the Stones they had to totally, delay their tour because he had heart surgery.
You would think it would be because of Keith Richards. But
no, when they do an autopsy on him, they're going to find the cure to cancer.
He died 20 years ago, no one told me.
Exactly. It's incredible. I think they're going to find the cure to every disease known to man in that guy.
Cured from death.
No, they're gonna find one of those portraits and I don't even
like
see
Dorian Gray.
Yeah. Because compared to what he looks like,
he looks like shoe leather right now.
He's
So
a good looking guy.
he used to be.
Yeah.
I mean, he used to be if you look at old pictures of Keith, he was incredibly good looking, and then the drugs took over, and they age you faster than anything. So, but yeah. That's my favorite meme on Facebook, by the way.
Yeah.
The one of Keith with the newspaper open every time a celebrity dies. Hey, Mick, look who I outlived this week. That's what it says. It's my favorite one.
All right. So you're sitting on your beautiful chaise.
Yes.
So this is IKEA?
No, but you're close. Wayfair. They deliver.
You have to put it together?
I had someone put it together.
I see.
But yeah, it's funny. I wanted to get the one where you can lift it up and have storage in it, but that doesn't actually hold enough weight. So I had to get the one that will hold more weight because sometimes there's two people on here and, not all of my clients are svelte.
You have to think of everything.
You do. You absolutely do. It's incredible.
So you're not lying here and giving commands all the time.
Sometimes I am.
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends on what the session is. Like some men, want to come in and serve, or do foot fetish or whatever, which I like because then I can just sit around. But when I have to do stuff, then I got to get up. I got to wear comfortable shoes. That's why I am mostly in yoga pants and a tank top when I work. It's funny. Everyone thinks that I'm constantly in a bustier and leather.
You just ruined the whole.
I know, but though you can't move in those clothes. They're not meant for movement and they're definitely not meant for summer. And so I have to be able to move. So there's a very unique trick that all dominatrix have to accomplish any goal we want. And it's a blindfold. So, with a blindfold on, as far as they're concerned, I still have my heels on. I still am dressed a certain, my hair is
Yeah, I
down,
just
like
saw that
everything.
fun image in my head, like you're cooking breakfast and feeding like 3 kids.
Right, absolutely.
No idea
Which,
what's going
by the
on.
way, would never happen. But yeah, the blindfold is the best because I can't tell you how many times, like, I'll, be with a client and even I'll do something where I'm like, oh my God, and they can't see me do that. So to have the blindfold is like, you're covered, and even when I teach classes, I teach, like this Friday, I'm teaching a class on how to be a nice dominatrix, like, which is really geared towards couples who, like, where the guy or even the woman is suddenly like, oh, I want you to be in charge. I want you to be the dominant. The other person is left going like, I don't know what to do because I'm a nice person. I don't even send my food back. Like, so that, and now I'm supposed to spank him or like, how do I do that? So I explain the blindfold is your best friend because when you screw up or when you make a face, they don't see it. So you don't ruin anything for the other person. The other person is still laser focused because the blindfold also sensory deprivation, it takes something away. They actually focus more. So they can focus on their own fantasy more.
Sensation,
and that helps you.
Too.
What?
Sensation.
Everything. Like, because they have to rely on that. When you take their vision away, you don't realize how much you actually rely on it. And so now you're stuck with hearing, just listening. And you can change that by putting headphones on a person and taking that away. Or you can, like, what if they can't breathe properly or, you're tying their hands, whatever, like, so you've seen people, they can't even talk. If they sit on their hands, they can't talk.
That's only the case with Italians.
And Jews. That is for you. It's not just them. But and women, really, it's.
Well, I was going to say, it's like if my wife.
Yeah.
Show me.
Absolutely.
But I did that once. And she's like, I can't talk to you if you're on there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much how people get me to be quiet, but nobody ties me up anyway. So it's not happening. But it's amazing when you just take away one sense, how much more confident the person in charge suddenly can become and how much more vulnerable the person not in charge. And it just that alone can flip the switch, change the dynamic, make it a special evening, good anniversary night. But, like it could just that alone. Like, and people think when they think of BDSM, when they think of even a dominatrix, they think of a woman in leather with like, big riding crop and she's walking around making everybody scream and hurting them. And that's just a small piece of what we do, which is, and it's my least favorite thing. Like, I don't like to hurt people. That's not, I like the reactions I get when I hurt people. Like, that's a different thing, because when they sign up for it and I know it's arousing for them or they just like it and I can see that happening, that's what I like. But it's not the action. Some people actually like to hit other people. I don't. I like the after.
We'll get into the tools of your trade in a bit. But you said you teach classes.
Yes.
I knew that, but so tell us some classes that you teach.
Well, the first class that I ever taught, it's the one I've been teaching for 18 years. It's the one that it's how I got into all of this. It was like my gateway. But do you remember, when we were younger, Real Sex on TV on HBO?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. All right. So there was an episode with a very tall blonde woman who came into a living room with a bunch of women, and she was teaching them basically how to give a blowjob. Like, that was the whole party. It was like old school, like what, and I remember watching this going, oh my God, that would be so much fun to take a class like that. How do you find that? Now, you remember when I saw this, internet was still dial up.
Yeah.
Like it was still like there was no Bing, there was no Google. You couldn't search for things properly. So I couldn't figure out who this woman was. And one day I'm home from work and I'm watching Oprah, and lo and behold, there she is. So now I have her name and everything. Turns out she's only in California. Oh, that stinks. She's coming to New York for one night only. It cost like $400 to take her class. And I remember saying to my boyfriend at the time, I can either get you the Kenneth Cole jacket you want for Christmas, or I can take this class. And he was like, I don't need a coat. So,
and I don't think, Oprah.
Yeah. And everybody does what Oprah says. And I don't think like he had any complaints, but like, he must've just figured like, hey, just learn more. Like, how can it hurt anybody, right?
Yeah.
Can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. And I remember taking the class with my best friend's wife, and we had the time of our lives. It was the most fun I've ever had with this very diverse group of women. There was an 80-year-old woman sitting next to us. And even
It's never too late to learn.
never too late. And even the hostess, the tall blonde woman, turned to her and said, "Okay, I gotta know, why are you here?" And she goes, "Well, I moved into a new retirement home and my boyfriend is 15 years younger than me. I figured I could learn a new trick." We all like fell in love. We were all like
Wow.
bowing. We're like, "Wow, go you. Awesome." So at the end of that, I realized nobody teaches this in New York. Nobody does anything like this. So I went up to her and I said, "All right, what's it going to take for me to get you
Like
to
a
teach me?"
franchise.
Yeah, well, like, I'm like, how do you promote something like this? Because remember, this was before the internet. This was before
Yeah.
you really could. This was before Twitter. I mean, you couldn't do that kind of stuff. So she taught me how to promote it. She taught me how to get my name out there. And she taught me, like, the syllabus. Like, do it in this order. Talk about it this. And I just do. And I've been doing that for 18 years. So I've done bachelorette parties. I've done divorce parties. Because it's really the perfect,
Yeah.
solution for that. And it just snowballed. It just kept snowballing.
Now, when you do the divorce parties, do you play the wedding tape backwards?
No, but there's a lot of champagne. It's amazing. It's amazing
They give
how.
the gifts back out.
Yeah, like they're all
toaster.
like, I went, no joke. I went to one who gave away all her, like, anything that she knew was a wedding gift. She'd be like, "Who wants these candlesticks? I don't want that." Like, she was giving away everything to her friends that reminded her of the guy. It's very funny what some of them will do, at these parties. And then, and I started doing more of them. I started to sell sex toys, not your Tupperware party, but fuckerware party. And those, how could you, like, all men want to be a fly on the wall. That, right? All these women buying vibrators and dildos and all this stuff. And they all want to do co-ed parties, and the men want to be there until they realize I know way more about their penises than they do. And then they're like, "I'm out."
But you can get a lot closer to it.
Well, yeah, I also know what makes it work and what makes it doesn't work. I know a lot more about it. And I ruin a lot of myths, which they don't like. So,
What do you tell them, Bert?
well, see if this sounds familiar when men say, "Oh, I've been saving up all week for you." Testicles are only so big, they can only hold so much. Like, that's it. After 48 hours, your body reabsorbs it.
I was going to say, she tells people this is not 6 inches.
Yeah, right. But yeah, no, I love that one. I've saved up all week for you. Really? What do you think's going to
What's
happen?
the interest rate?
Yeah, so it's incredible. Like that there's, I can tell you how fast an ejaculation goes, how much protein's in it. Not a lot. I know, shucks. All the different myths surrounding it. I will dispel, and men tend not to like that, or they'll pick up the vibrators and suddenly turn into Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader.
That's gotta be funny.
It's like an automatic response. Like, you guys see a dildo or a vibrator and you immediately think it's a sword.
Well, his Schwartz is as big as
This is
mine.
right.
Yeah,
I got it. Yeah. It's always an extension. That's why we sometimes put a cage on those extensions. I have, like, somewhere in this room is a box of keys. Just keys to men's cock cages that they send me. I've never met them. I don't know who they are. They just send them to me.
And they still have the cages.
Yeah, and they're supposedly wearing them, and only I can open them.
Doesn't sound
They're
hygienic.
going to mail it back somehow.
No, every cage comes with 2 sets of keys. But let's be honest.
Cheaters.
But like, I guess the idea that, like, a strange woman has the key to their car, like, there's some really, I get requests for weird things I won't do.
I can only imagine.
Oh, somebody wanted me to pee in a mason jar and send it to them. I'm like, no. I'll only do that for a
Just send
doctor.
them a lemonade and charge them $20.
Yeah, well, it's like, what are you going to do with it? My whole thing is, like, I know other mistresses and dumbs who will do that stuff. They'll send dirty panties, they'll send whatever, but I'm like, you are sending your DNA to somebody else. And I don't know what it's being used for, and that to me right there is like a red
Gonna
flag.
put it on the murder weapon.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that they're not
Like, there'll
going to
be
do
like a
that.
mutant creature, you know.
Well, I have a room full of weapons here
How did your
So
urine
it's
get
not-
on the
It-
murder
it-
weapon?
in Washington.
Yeah.
Like, but still, I figured no evidence,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
So is that how you got started from the Oprah show, or
Well,
was
it-
something before?
It just kept escalating. I mean, BDSM as a culture, I was in it long
Before
before then. I actually I don't have a tragic story. I have a happy story. I was living and going to graduate school, and I was dancing, you know, and I'm from New Jersey, so I went to the best hair salon in Atlanta because that's what you would do. And so I got, you get very friendly with your hairstylist, like as all women do. And it turns out my hairstylist was a member of the gay leather community, which is very steeped in BDSM traditions. And he saw me as somebody he needed to like cull and take care of because I was on a not so great path. I was dancing, I was doing a lot of drugs, I was doing like partying, I was doing what any 21-year-old girl in college would do. But he had no children, and I think he just saw me and was like, I need to do something. So how he tempered me was by giving me structure around BDSM so that I got some of the, like my wild needs satisfied and like, but in a controlled environment. So he could make sure nothing happened to me, that nobody gave me something I shouldn't have or whatever. And, I got to live in his house, in his big, beautiful, I have to put my hair up, I'm sorry, but in his big, beautiful mansion with a pool and everything. I was going to graduate school and I was living in this great house and having this great time. And I just had to follow his rules. And it was very easy. And when I would come home every day from school, I would, do my homework. I would then go off to the club. And when I would come back from the club, I would just hand him all these wads of cash. Because I just figured he's going to give me an allowance, which he did. And the rest of it just covers my living expenses. Like, how much can I honestly be making, stripping? But I was making a lot and I just didn't realize. Like, I didn't care. I was happy, so I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't want for anything.
So he was like a pimp.
Yeah, or more like my investor, I guess. Because what happened was when I told him about 9 or 10 months later that I wanted to go back home, that I needed to go back home, he gave me all of my money plus interest.
Oh, wow.
He was holding it for me. That was the point. He was making sure that I wasn't being reckless with anything. And he sent me home with I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. And as I got older and I got involved in BDSM again and started going to some of the clubs and hang out with people, I realized that a lot of people have this tragic story of how they got into BDSM. Either it was because they, were abused or they need the pain, they were a cutter. Like, there's a million different reasons people get into BDSM, and the majority of them are tragic or sad. And I thought, God, so if everybody just had a safe space to explore this, non-judgmental, where they can come and act out their fantasy and nobody's going to point the finger at them or make them feel bad. I mean, maybe after they leave, but certainly not during. What a great idea. And that's how this whole thing started, was I just wanted to be able to give people a safe space to be themselves. Even in my classes, like there's so many women who read 50 Shades of Grey and that's their only, that's their only idea of what BDSM is like. And to some of them, it's very exciting. And to others, it's very frightening. So I wanted to be able to give people like the chance to, say like, no, that's not, this is not how this is. Like, BDSM is huge. It's so broad. It's not just, bondage and discipline, slave and master. It's also dominant and submissive. It's also, just even having discipline and desire. Like, it's all of that combined. This is just how it manifests in leather and whips and flappers and paddles.
So this is not a question for this. I'll cut this out later. But what is that noise?
That's the fan.
Can we turn that on?
We can, but then I'm just going to keep sweating.
We're all gonna sweat.
It's
Yeah.
probably ruining the audio.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus. Wow. Okay, that's going to really kill the audio.
Is it?
All right. Well, I can,
All right, so we can just continue.
I'll end up repeating myself many times, so don't worry.
Okay, so you have your cards. I got one of your cards. Someone contacts you.
Mm-hmm.
How does the conversation negotiation go?
Like if it's for a session.
Yeah, for
Okay,
client.
so most of them will. Anybody who's been to a mistress before, professionally or else, they all know to say, so what's your tribute? Right? Because I don't charge, I'm not, because then that's a whole other field that is not legal.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice, like even in my room, I have a box that says tributes. So in other words, people are just making a donation to me. Granted, it's a set price, but
okay.
And at the same time, if you can't make that donation, I can refuse. So, but anybody who's in the know, they already know to ask that. I know by the way people approach me if they've ever been to someone before. Because if they've never been to one before, they approach me like they're having conversation. There's no formality. There's no, hi, ma'am, or hi, mistress. I am such and such and such, and I'm a sub, and I'm a this, and I'm a that, and I'm interested. They know to present themselves. They know to give me a little background. Okay. So, Joey on Fetlife is just going to write, hey, what's up? And expect me to answer and, whatever. And then if they read my profile, which is the first thing I ask, have you read my profile? Because it says it right in there. And if they say yes, I'll be like, okay, so then my next question is, are you interested in booking a session? And if they say, no, I just really want to get to know you, I say, well, it's, X amount an hour to get to know me. Because I'm not dating you. That's not what this is for. But I get that. I get some very funny messages. I told you, I think my favorite one recently was, his profile name. I guess I shouldn't out him, but it basically was something to the extent of young, hot dick, great for you, right? And you can see their age. And he was 20. So he writes to me, hey, let me know when you're interested in some really good dick or something like that. And I just wrote back, why, is your dad single? And sometimes that shuts it down right away. Other times it doesn't. And they just, keep going. And it depends on my mood. Sometimes I get real funny stuff, Other times I end up with somebody who becomes a client because they, personality wise, or if they quote Star Wars, then I'm in.
You just complained about the lightsabers.
Yeah, but if they can quote Star Wars, it's different if they're playing with my expensive merchandise as a lightsaber.
What if they're playing with it and quoting at the same time?
This is still a no-go, because if it falls and it breaks, they're buying it. And they usually put it down the minute I say, that's a $250 vibrator you're playing with. They're like, oh, really? And they put it down. So, most men who contact me, though, they know exactly why they're contacting me. And I get contacted by couples, too. It's not just men. I do get contacted by couples. They're my most fun to work with.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Oh, it's the most fun, because most of the time, it's two kinds. It's she wants him to dominate, and he's been taught his whole life, don't hit a girl.
Yeah.
So, his idea of spanking is to go like this. And that's it. That's it. They don't want, and the girl's left going yeah, okay, you're doing it wrong. And that's men don't like to hear that they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Especially when it's something sexual. That's the worst thing you could say to them.
Yeah. That's just horrible.
Yeah, right? But
sounds horrible.
It sounds horrible, but here's the thing, and this is what people don't know. When you spank a man or a woman, there is a spot that's an erogenous zone, so you don't feel pain. It never hurts. No matter how hard you go, it doesn't hurt.
You have to mark the X.
But if you get it wrong, it hurts. So I teach couples so when you can say to somebody who doesn't know to hit a girl, look, if you hit her here, it's never going to hurt her. Watch if you don't believe me. And I do it, and they see, the reaction she gets. They're like, oh, and it's like those light bulbs go off all over their head. And I love those moments because they bring a couple closer. They make them happier. They give each other what they want. And other times it's the guy wants to be, dominated by his woman. And she's like, but I'm the homemaker. I'm the nice one. I raise the kid. I don't know the first thing about doing it. And I always say the same thing. It takes me about 2 to 3 hours to get a gentleman comfortable with dominating his girlfriend. It takes me about 15 minutes to get a woman comfortable with dominating a man, because it's just a different mindset. And I can tap into what women feel a lot easier because I am one. But, you know, when I say, did he load the dishwasher correctly today? And then they just wail on him. And that's it. Like, it's like, those are the magic words. You know, so that you just have to, you know, find what people want and you tap into it and you go for it. Landlord. But I like the couples more because there's more laughter involved. It gets silly.
Yeah.
It's less about me creating a fantasy or them fantasizing about me, and more of a guided teaching. I just like that better, you know. But I've gotten more comfortable with the other being in my own room now. Like when I used to work in a big dungeon, I was so much more hesitant about doing things because I always felt like somebody's watching or listening. Or now when I have my own private space, I am, you know, a little bit freer. You know, so it's much more fun now to like walk by somebody and spank them and go, stop having dirty thoughts about me. And I can spank them and, you know, and it dawns me like, oh, it's probably real. Like, okay.
So you used to work in an open space with a lot of people?
Well, they had private rooms and open space. So sometimes you were in the open space. Like, it depends on what the situation was or how packed it was that day. Or a lot of times clients want the open space too. Like, even though I prefer to play privately, they would rather play where
So
other people can see.
Exhibition.
More exhibition, more humiliating, more, or just more of a turn on in general. I mean, you have to get that when people do this, even though what turns them on to some people could be like, oh my God, I can't believe like degrading you or making you feel small or stupid is a turn on for you. But for some people, it actually is. So you have to just sort of like let it go and respect that and be like, hey, if that's what gets you off, then I'll just give you a safe space to have it. But, you know, that's the challenge, I think, too, like having to get over, like, I can't believe this is turning someone on, or I can't believe this works for them. You know, like, I mean, I use like a violet wand. It's electrical. And I attach more electric stuff to them to create even more of a shock. And that's a turn on. And all I'm thinking is, you know, one more volt and this could be the end of you.
Did you ever see a picture of Tesla in Colorado? That's what I'm seeing. The guy's holding a light bulb.
Right. It's like, yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. Sometimes when you're on the circuits, you know, for the conventions and stuff, there's a couple who I know very well, and they are amazing, but they are scary. He looks like Uncle Fester, and she goes by she looks like Wednesday, the braids, the whole thing. And he brings this big electric cannon, and he's like 6'8". He's huge. And he brings this electric cannon, and she puts a light bulb in her mouth, and he lights it off, you know, back here, and the bulb goes off. And I'm going, how strong is that electric current that just ran through her that lights her up? But yeah, I mean, people are into all kinds of, like, pick a fetish, and I will tell you that somebody's into it.
Turtles?
Probably. Yes, absolutely, because they hide and they dress. Yeah. There are people that, you know, furries. They dress like stuffed animals.
I remember the first time I heard of that. I was like, what? You dress like a stuffed animal?
Oh my God.
It's bizarre.
Grown men and women who will regress as littles, you know, and they want to be treated as a child or a baby. That's a turn on. I don't know why. I like being an adult. I couldn't wait to be one. I love being one. But I don't take it away from somebody that I just don't get it. I don't understand it. But for an hour, I can fake it.
So is that one of the weirdest things you have? The baby fetish?
No.
No? What's the weirdest fetish?
The weirdest thing that I've ever done, that I can honestly say, it was just a weird, and it was harmless. That's what I think makes it even more weird. Basically, he liked to get completely naked. We would lay a tarp down. We had to. And he just wanted to, like, you know, like jerk off in front of me as I take a pie and smash it in his face. And the more pies, the better. And like like chocolate cream pie, banana. It had to be a cream pie. And like one time I was like, I got a friend involved because I was like, you're not going to believe this. You have to come witness this. And we both did it. And I've never seen anybody have a reaction like that before in my life. Like that was by far, I was like, oh my God, like check it for a pulse. Like it was like, I was almost worried afterwards, but he had the time of his life. That was like the most.
How many pies did you have to waste?
I think that he buys the pies. I don't know.
I know. Still, they're starving kids in somewhere.
Somewhere.
So we don't know
pies.
But
for pies, right.
They're looking for pies.
I think that particular one was like 8 pies. I mean, he was covered.
It's like a bizarre Groucho Marx slash. I don't know what.
Yeah, it's and I think I asked him like, how do you get into this? He's like, I don't know. I watched the Three Stooges and it just.
Oh my God, that's hilarious! Three Stooges with Ed Wood combined.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people find that the thing that arouses them the most is also the thing that they thought would gross them out the most. It's It's a strange. I always tell people, especially when I'm teaching or working with couples, whatever kink you started out with, you're not ending up with. There's just no way, right? I mean, you start like, I'm just gonna do paddles. And by the time you're done, you're hanging by meat hooks from the ceiling, getting electrocuted. Like, right? You always it's like a tattoo. Like you can't just get one. Yeah. It just escalates. It can't help but escalate.
Did you ever hang someone up the hook?
No, because I'm not into that. I always tell people I'm the nice dom. If you've never been to one before, come to me first. I'm not hardcore. I'm more of a sensual dom. Tease and denial is my specialty. People, I'm like MC Hammer. Can't touch this. But I will tease the hell out of you.
And you can't. A dollar store with 50 cents.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and and then I'll be like, bye bye. That's part of what they like. That's what they want. And certainly that's, fun. I've spent a lifetime perfecting that role. So it's, easy, but that's more of my niche. I'm just starting to really enjoy and get into electric play because I like the sound and I like the visual of it,
Does look cool.
It looks so cool. It's like fire flogging. Have you ever seen that? No. It's a flogger on fire. And Bex had it done to him. We were at an event, and it's a great way to wax your back, by the way.
I'll remember.
Yeah, it's like once done. Just
you might have second-degree burns.
But you don't, because they put like something on you that protects. But it just looks so cool. I mean, and Bex said you only feel the heat for like a second, and it looks so beautiful. Like the way the whip is just flying through the air with all this fire.
It's a lot faster than waxing.
What? Yeah.
It's probably a bad one for a Brazilian.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend it. No, at least not mine. It's no fire. Fire, bad.
Flaming bush.
Yeah, yeah. The Jews have a whole theory on flaming bush, and that's not it.
I don't know if that's the right connection.
Yeah, I don't think that's the way we want to go.
Is that the reference in the
Bible? No wonder they got it wrong. Yeah, so some things in it, right, are just amazing and more visually. They're more for a visual stimulation anyway than they are for like an erotic. But you see more of that at like the shows. I always love when we go to swinger parties or other shows, and there's always somebody there like as the special. So there'll be like a fire flogger or somebody doing fire cupping, and you find that a lot of swingers are firemen. And it's always fun to watch that. They're always like, no. They're like trying to put it out. It's like an automatic response with them. Yeah. Like you can always tell when you go into a fireman's house, there's no candles. They never have any. Not allowed.
My dad wasn't a fireman, but he hated candles.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my mother had like thousands in shapes and colors and scents. And it was like wicks and sticks exploded.
Yeah. So flames. Currents. But you don't use direct current.
No. You know what?
Just stick with the old.
Just the violet ones. Just like remember when you were a little kid and you would put your hand on those globes and it would create all that. That's what it is. Only this one gives an electric shock. So it doesn't hurt your arm, but sensitive areas, it's gonna hurt. Or some like it. I also find one of my favorite tools is an electric toothbrush. Because you can get to really tiny spaces.
I was going to say, ask what do you do with an electric toothbrush?
There's a lot. You can do one of my. Okay, so this is one of my favorites when I get a client who wants this, but I don't get them very often. Tickle torture. I love it because what's not to love? I spend an hour laughing, tickling somebody and laughing, and the electric toothbrush like between the toes, perfect.
Oh yeah.
Places I don't want to really touch with my fingers, electric toothbrush is even better. You know, because you can control how light or how, and it's torture, and it's perfect.
Any particular kind of head on that type of toothbrush?
I like the really small one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it works better. Or the one I have now has like a groove in it. So you can do rounded areas.
Oh.
Do you have anyone dressed as a clown?
No, I've never had that.
I'm scared.
Yeah, I don't think I would enjoy that. The most I get them dressed as is women. Like I've never, like it'd be really cool if one of them came dressed as Spider-Man, but it doesn't happen. I've had to dress as Little Red Riding Hood, Snow White, the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. What else? The only one that I hate more than anything is the nurse, because then you have to wear white. I don't like wearing white ever.
Huh.
I feel like you can be like the nun nurse.
Then I would just burst into flames.
Oh,
Everything would go, no. Poof.
Flaming bush.
Yeah, that's the flaming bush. There you go. Yeah, no, could you imagine that? Me as a nun? That would be funny. I should do that for
the
Halloween.
hospitals, you have nuns taking care of the patient.
I wouldn't know. I don't go to those hospitals.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, in fact, I went to a hospital, like, St. Clair's right around here. They have a giant cross in the door. I'm like, we're out. I'm out. Too close. You know, it's just too close.
But you can only hang one person at a time from that.
Not if they put up another cross. Which, apparently we put up a lot of them. I don't,
Yeah.
All right, so you mentioned to me one time, besides the toothbrush, your fondness for kitchen implements.
Oh, yes. I have a whole can of them.
So what do you have, spatulas?
Yeah, spatulas, wooden spoons, but I find the silicone ones are better because, one, they are thuddier. So for anyone on team,
They don't stick.
They
don't stick.
They don't stick, and they're easier to clean. And they don't splinter.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to replace. Forget the heart. You have to replace them. I don't like to have to replace my equipment. So I like to be able to clean it, keep it sanitary, and just the fact that they're silicone, so they make a great sound, and they came in great shapes and small ones, little ones, so you can get smaller faces. Then one of my clients brought me that paint stick. You see it?
It's a big paint
but
stick.
It's like a big one, so it doesn't break.
You can get that in any.
That came from like Lowe's.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of stuff comes from Lowe's or Home Depot. That's a wonderful place to shop for your gear.
Who knew?
It's cheaper and it tends to be better. I also find when you go to like the actual tractor supply stores, like for like my riding crops, I have two that you get at a sex shop, and they're flimsy, they're gonna break. But the ones that came from the actual, those are awesome, and they're actually more affordable, and they're gonna last forever. And then some of my other stuff I get at like like Bed Me On, like the feathers and like paintbrushes. Like there are some things that you just find are more useful than like the tool that you would intend to.
And that stuff you get in the Beyond section?
Yeah, the Beyond. Yes, they have it labeled. Or just my section. But yeah, no, it's awesome. Like all the chains and the carabiners, like all of that comes from Home Depot.
I'll never look at that store the same way.
No, you shouldn't. Every time I'm in there, like for stuff for home improvement, I'm also going, I wonder if I could use this for this. It's like a job hazard. When I see people in the stores in the morning, like, when I get my Dunkin' in the morning, I make up stories about everybody in line. Just by the way they're dressed, I'm like, I bet you they're into this. Sometimes I think I can nail it, but.
Well, that probably gives you an interesting perspective because you get to see the side of people.
Exactly. Well, okay, so like when you hear stories of very powerful men who like to be peed on or tied up, yeah, that's true. Powerful men love to be in a submissive position in sex because they don't have to think. They don't have to make a decision. it's a release for them, but it's a finite period of time. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it can all be defined. So to people like that, that's very important to them, but that's how they relax. That's how they take it down. And you find that people who are in a more subject, like where they work for other people, they tend to want to dominate because they don't get a chance to do that in their daily life. So they reverse it in their, bedroom life.
And how about if somebody was unemployed?
Well, it can go that both ways then, right? You can have the angry time because you don't have a job, and then you
stand there and do nothing.
Yeah, or you could just be a piece of furniture. Some people are into that too.
Middle management is switches.
Yeah. Be a table.
So somebody actually wants to be a table?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, I have a client that comes here.
And he wants to be a table?
And he gets completely naked, and he's like, and I put my drink on him, and I sit there and I read a little bit of a book, and I may kick him once or twice, but it's just, it's part of it. He can't flinch. That's the thing. You can't spill my drink.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes a game. And so for a lot of them, that's the fun of it. Like you turn it into a game. You make it fun. I tell couples all the time, if you are in a marriage or a relationship, I shouldn't just say marriage, but in a relationship where the sex got stale, for $10, I could change all that for you. Buy yourself some dirty dice and roll them.
I was going to say, that's a cheap rate, $10.
Yeah. You don't get me for $10.
What, you got to charge more than that.
But you can buy the dice. And the dice tell you what to do, to who, and to where. It doesn't get simpler than that.
Do you ever get somebody who likes to wash cars?
No, I wish.
What if you just send them to my house?
I know. I have clients who are like, I'll come to your house and I'll do stuff for you and I'll clean and I'll paint and I'll do this. And I'm like, I have a husband for that.
I need to finish painting my house. They can come over.
Or my favorite is, please let me come over and wait on you. I'm like, I have a very big dog. They're like, well, you can lock him up. I'm like, no, I like my dog better than you. How about we put you in the crate and see how you like it?
You could refer them to Boris. He will abuse them.
He will?
Absolutely. But blindfold them so they don't know I'm the one doing it. I'll just give them a paintbrush and go.
Oh, yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
Blindfolded and paint. Just find the wall and hopefully you'll hit it and it'll look good. Wax on, wax off. Have a good time.
Okay, my plan wasn't exactly perfect.
Yeah, I don't think you really thought that through, Boris.
Maybe we can do like abstract painting.
I tell my landlord all the time, look, just say when. I have 1 million subs who will just come here and clean.
You know how easy it would be to start a construction company?
Well,
you're more likely to get like a computer startup going with these guys.
Any of that stuff.
Yeah.
True.
They tend to be a little bit
Yeah.
more on the geeky, nerdy side.
Sweatshop.
Yeah, less on the physical.
That's right. You can start developing games and apps. And
There's going to be a lot of dildo lightsabers now.
Yeah.
As long as people are buying it.
They do. There is like a whole, because I sell sex toys, so I have a whole list of distributors I can get from, and there is like a whole
Star Wars.
Well, superhero line. They look like any of them. The only real frightening one really is like Aquaman. It just doesn't look right. It just doesn't look right. Like eels shouldn't be going. Speaking of, there's a company that makes alien dildos, like literally. And have you seen that thing where it'll deposit like an egg in you?
No.
It's basically made of Jello.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so wrong. Who wants it? I don't want an alien egg in me for real. Why am I going to fake it?
Wow.
Weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an Area 51 dildos.
Yeah, it's like a whole.
I'm not judging anyone.
It's neither am I. It's a whole fetish though of people who
Into aliens.
Into aliens. I blame anime and comic book. I'm sure the same people who go to Comic-Con and Fetish World cross.
Well, I'm sure with the furries, that's probably
the cosplay.
To dress up in them.
Yeah, cosplay is really.
Cosplay is became a very fun expression of BDSM.
Yeah, and they're kind of banging up against the wall now because people want to be more risque with the cosplay, and
you can't go to certain
Comic-Cons are like
for kids.
That's right, because you have a lot of kids.
You have a lot of kids there, and so it's like, why is Princess Leia wearing a half? Like, I don't remember her nipples showing in the movie.
What movie did you watch?
Yeah, really.
Maybe they should have adult version.
They do. Oh, they absolutely have a million Star Wars parodies.
Yeah.
I mean, conventions.
Yeah.
I mean,
Comic-Cons, but it can make it 21 and over.
Well, they do. They have BDSM conventions with comic night.
Yeah.
In cosplay night. Like, right? Like, you get to dress up, or you get in for half price if you come as a superhero. You know, like,
well, I know,
fun shit like that.
There was Exotica last year.
Which I've been to many of them.
Yeah. I had a friend who went, and two friends, they dress up as pirates one night.
Mm-hmm.
They dress up, one dresses up as Fred Krueger. Very popular.
Friday night ladies get in free all the time at Exotica. So can you imagine what shows up at that door if ladies get in free?
A lot of nerdy guys.
And a lot of them dressed as women, so they don't have to pay.
Oh, so cheap. Nerdy.
You can do that?
I think so.
I was wearing a kilt.
You only wear
Kilts? No, kilts. Men wear kilts, not women.
But
just put some makeup on.
Just put some rainbow on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of them come dressed that way. You know, it's funny, when I was living in Atlanta, when I used to dance, there were two guys that used to go to the bars all the time at night. Like, one was dressed as Darth Vader and the other one as Lieutenant Worf. Nobody ever saw them without their makeup on, without their full... Like, they spent the whole night that way. I know women that went home with them, they never took their masks off. Like, it was like a whole...
Well, that's a very Revenge of the Nerds kind of thing.
It's like a whole... It was like a whole thing. And this is like 30 years... A long time ago. This was like... And I remember thinking back then, like, oh, this is a little strange. And now that I'm in this world, I'm like, no, that's what they were into. That's their thing. Like, it makes more sense now than it did then. You know, because...
Because you know more.
I know more, and also it was Atlanta. It's very hot down there to be dressed like that.
Right, in the summer. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the mask, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's so funny because I never gave it another thought until I started to get back involved with this. And I was like, oh, that's what they were doing.
So did you take a break? You said when you got back into
Well, yeah, I got married. I had a family. This isn't really a conducive lifestyle with a baby.
Oh, damn, I would have been...
Yeah, you put her in the baby Bjorn. Yeah. You know, and I think anybody who starts this when they're younger goes through a period of like, well, maybe I've outgrown it. Like, is it really a thing? You realize as you get older, like, yeah, it's a thing and you can't let it go. It's like an itch you can't scratch, which is why so many of my clients are older and maybe going through like a life change, like a divorce or something. And they're like, it's now or never. You only live once. I'm not going to wait for it anymore. And that's why they're willing to pay somebody. Mm-hmm. It's not about like, you know, that it's seedy or it's just that they don't want to wait anymore to have their fantasy. And if their wife isn't going to do it, or their girlfriend's not going to do it, or if somebody on, you know, Plenty of Fish is not going to do it, they want to experience it. So they're willing to pay a professional.
Like a Plenty of Fish. Look what are you talking about?
Are you married?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why you don't know it either. I have to learn. My submissive is 32 years old, and he teaches me all the apps on my phone. He teaches me about all the cool lingo and like, I almost have to have him in my life to learn this stuff, because otherwise I would never be able to communicate with my child.
The funny part is that you wait in line at supermarkets, you list tabloids. Mm-hmm. I was so happy that I didn't know a single person in any of them.
Right. Like they're just, all of my celebrities are dead. So they're not even in there.
And I was happy about it. I'm like, this is great. I don't know anything.
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, it's you're right. It's like, it's a whole, but like, I don't know if you have girls or boys, but I have a girl, so I'm stuck in boy band world.
I'm allergic.
You're allergic? Yeah, I wish I was. She figured out how my radio works, therefore I'm not allergic.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've spoken about your submissive.
Yes.
How does that relationship work?
Well, let's see. I met Bex because he took one of my classes. And my submissive is trans male, which is very good for me in the sense that he's so hooked into the LGBTQ community and political speak, you know, like knowing everyone's pronouns and the right way to approach stuff and how to give them their safe space.
It's very complicated.
It's very complicated. So a lot of the people who take my classes, though, are young. And having Bex in my life to explain to me the correct way to speak to them with respect, without pissing, is very useful to me. Like, I can't even put a price on that. Because otherwise I would, well, not when they take a class, though. you know, because I don't want to alienate anybody. My whole purpose of doing the classes and everything is making the extreme mainstream so that anyone can feel comfortable exploring this side of themselves, you know, and even feel comfortable saying, no, not for me. Tried it, not for me. I want to be able for people to enjoy that. So it's very important for me to be politically correct sometimes and to know my audience, know who I'm speaking to. And Bex is just, I can't even put a price on it because he always, you know, makes sure that I follow the correct protocol and you know, and plus I learn a lot because I have a young child. This may come up again.
Yeah.
So this allows me to have those conversations, to, you know, be hooked into that. And you know, and it's just a really unique perspective. But I do refer to Bex sometimes as my lesbian boyfriend. Because we also have a personal relationship. And so it's funny because the more personable I get with somebody, the less I want to hurt them. You know, like it becomes harder to hurt. So wait, so I have to tell you, so this was like, you know, fortunately I'm pretty easygoing about stuff and I don't react as quickly as I'll think before I react. And so Bex and I weren't getting a lot of alone time. So he pretended to be a client, sent a deposit, you know, made an appointment, and then showed up. And I was like, oh my God, it's you. Like, you know, it was like and some people, yes, may get mad, but
did you show up with like a Groucho mustache? And like,
yeah,
really bad disguise.
Yeah, that would have been cute, but no. But it was like, but I immediately understood why he did it. So I didn't get mad. I was actually like, it was very, you know, inventive. So we're sitting in here and we're, you know, hanging out, we're playing a little bit, whatever. And I go to like, you know, and he says to me, he's like, I want you to slap me across the face. I'm like, I cannot do that. Like, I just can't bring myself to do that. And then, and because he used a fake name to make the appointment with me, he goes, well, what if it was so-and-so? And I just let it rip. And even I was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I just did that. And he was like, no, that was good. That worked. Like, it was just so funny how the reaction I had just by thinking of him as someone else made it easier for me to do that because when I think of him, I just couldn't do that. Like, I adore him. I didn't want to hurt him, you know, but it was like the minute he said, I was like, whoa. And even I was like, oh my God. You know, like there was a handprint there for a while, like everything. And I was like, oh, and so now it's become this joke. Like whenever he wants me to get really like aggressive, he'll say, well, pretend I'm so-and-so. Like brings it out. But yeah, so the dynamic's weird because it's been going on for a year, and weird in a positive way. It's been going on for a year. Bex is poly, so he's perfectly happy sharing me. You know, he knows I'm married. He knows I have another life.
And poly, like...
he can love more than one person at a time. And he prefers that.
Not like the parrot.
Not like the parrot, no. More like, you know, big love or sister wives. Like, one, you know. And he prefers that because I think he can't devote... Well, he says he can't devote a whole lot of time to one relationship, but he is so unbelievably devoted to me that I second guess that all the time. Because I'm like, you know, just so you know, like, I have this, and I can give you this much, but you still have to go and get the other pieces. And he doesn't. So I don't want to hurt him. Like, that's my whole thing. Like, I adore him. I don't want to hurt him. But he's my techie. Like, he'll go with me to all my classes, and he hooks up all my technical stuff, and he operates it for me. He's like my audio-visual guy.
You just show up with a card,
my own little geek.
like the old high school cards.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a microfiche, whatever the thing was.
Well, it's very funny. He put all my presentations for me on PowerPoint so that I can make it really nice, and I have visual aids now, which I never used to. So it actually makes me look more professional and, you know, more prepared. And it keeps me on point. Because if you notice, I go off tangents and I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, which is good for right now.
You should also get the table guide. Be a table for your video project.
That would be awesome in the right class. You just gave me a great idea. But most of the time, it's soccer mom sitting across from me. And like I think that they might be concerned.
What if you had pictures of him as a coffee table book, but you put it on top of him?
I should bring that up to him.
Would you like to post a
He'd
couple
probably
of photos?
love
You can put in a photo.
Has he
Okay.
considered being other parts of furniture?
A lamp.
Mm-hmm.
Which
with the
is,
shade and everything?
yeah. What else? Mostly footstools, mostly tables.
Expensive furniture or like cheap?
No, he's
Like
pretty cheap.
IKEA?
He's pretty cheap. He's scrawny.
They
You
get a
know.
little tool for him.
We have a lot of little tools for him, but he has his own
Yeah,
little
like a little
cupboard.
IKEA magic tool.
Yeah.
Whenever you buy from IKEA, it's got like one tool for
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this possible?
It just makes me laugh because you know, a lot of times a lot of clients, you know, when they come here, you know, they want to see more of me, like more skin, more, you know, I'm fully clothed when I work with them, but as a reward, you know, like the more you come to see me, the more appointments you have, maybe the less I'll wear, you know, or the sexier I'll wear or whatever. Just that's how I, you know, show my appreciation for them becoming. But when they're a table or, you know, a chair, that's the whole thing, is if I sit bare-assed on them. Like that's,
Right.
that is like the creme to, like, that's like the best prize ever. That's like the whole ball game for them. Like they're living for that moment. They just keep, you know, and I just get to keep
Wait,
saying like, next time, you know, like,
You know, for extra fee, you should probably put some paint on your rear end and leave a mark on them. And
They
they can
would
get a
like that
tattoo.
too much,
They can
yeah.
get a tattoo of that as a memento.
yeah, they would probably like that too much. I had one who's like, can you bite me? And then I'm going to go get a tattoo of your teeth mark. And I'm like, no, it's DNA again. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That's right.
Not
Scary
doing it.
again.
You're not getting a dental implant. But yeah, I mean, like that's, and I'm like, why would you even think of that? And it's because of Jackass. I say no more. If it's on Jackass, it's going to be something stupid.
Wow.
Remember, Steve-O used to do that
Yep.
with everything that bit him.
Well, you
Yep.
do a lot of stuff.
Well, yeah, he's an idiot.
Anyone show up with the what was the thing they used to do? The mouse traps and the private.
Oh yeah. Right.
Oh, I got to tell you something. They put a lot of dominatrixes to shame because the stuff that they would do to their own penises, they're not nice to their penises.
No.
They had no respect for their
No,
Hence
penises.
the name
no.
Jackass.
Right, yeah. They have no, yeah. Like I see a lot of men that come to me with no respect for their penis, but they really had none because
How do you offend your own?
by being mean to it.
Okay. So a couple of weeks ago, when we were setting this up, you told me about a new tool you had, and I don't think I want to see it, but it was a nut
Oh, ball crusher.
ball crusher. Yes.
Oh, how descriptive.
Yeah, it's basically
like a
2 pieces of plastic that you screw together.
vice.
And like a vice.
Yeah.
And the penis comes and the testicles come up through it, but then there's a smaller hole at the top so only the penis can get through and the testicles are between them, and you just keep tightening the screws.
You don't like to hurt people.
I
That
don't,
you
but
can do.
if they ask me to do
Okay,
it,
they want you to do it.
then I, you know,
Did you
then
have
I
a
will.
specific request for that, or did you anticipate?
I had a specific request, but it seems to be a very popular one now.
Really?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's and it's not just about the pain with it. It's all about like, you know, the humiliation. It's all about having like a woman has, you know, your balls in her hand. You're going
Balls
to
in
pay
a vice,
attention.
My,
You know?
my entry for my diary tonight's going to be very interesting.
Well, yeah.
What did I
So-
learn today?
Yeah, well, I'm going to
Your
change.
diary.
I'll change something really quick for you because when I was teaching the blowjob class at the dungeon, and one of the other dominatrixes come up to me and she's like, listen, I get that you teach the class. I think it's fun, but I don't understand how a woman can be in a dominating position while she's giving head. Like, I don't get that. Because in her mind, that was a very subservient position to be in.
Oh.
And I went, I'm going to give you 32 reasons why it's a dominant
Yeah, it's really
position.
not that hard to
And
figure
she's
out.
like, what? I go, you have 32 teeth. It's the most dominating position ever. And the minute I said that, she was like, light bulb, and changed everything for her. It changed her whole outlook on it because now suddenly she saw it as a position of power and not the other.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you before. I wondered at the divorce parties if you were, you know, teaching the blowjob class, if anybody did bite down on any. You know.
Yeah, I go over no teeth
Yeah.
extensively. I say, look, of it, sometimes you get a request for teeth. but it's usually a little nibble. It's usually a little graze. It's not a bite down and dismember kind of teeth thing. So there's like a whole part during my presentation. No teeth.
That's a class that Lorena Bobbitt was teaching back in the 90s.
Absolutely. I always think of the world according to Garp too.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh.
But it's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's really a very powerful position for women, and they don't really get that. And so once you explain that to them and teach them how, and also, I mean, believe it or not, a lot of women, especially in a divorce party, they've been with the same guy for like 20, 30 years. And it may have been the first guy they were ever with, because 20 or 30 years ago, that still happened, and so...
Oh, at least that's what they say.
That's what they say, right? The answer is always 3. And so you as a woman, like, you start to doubt your own, like, having sexual confidence is a big deal. And so if you really feel like you don't know what you're doing, or what if you were with a partner for 20 or 30 years who told you time and again, you don't know what you're doing. And now you're divorced and you're back out there. What do you, whether you believe him or not, whether it's true or not, it's irrelevant. You've been told that your whole life. So now you're convinced you don't know what you're doing. So you might take my class, and when you leave it, you can at least feel like, I got this. This is easier than I thought. This is not going to be so hard. And I talk about everything. I talk about manscaping. I talk about how you can convince somebody to manscape. I talk about, whether to swallow or not to swallow, like, and how you can, fake it. Like, to help them, to give them different tricks so that they're not so
like
put off by it.
Trick.
Well, it's just a hand. It's not that complicated. You guys would know better than I would, but, it's really not that complicated. In fact, most of my techniques I learned from other gay men. So
you got 2 speeds.
Yeah. Start and stop, usually. Except for as you guys get older, definitely you learn to control, you learn your window. You learn how to go past it or hang on.
No comment.
Yeah. Fortunately, I also know where the easy button is.
That's that Staples one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's just call it that. But there is an easy button. You all have one. It works every time. Yeah. In fact, when I told someone about that once in a class, and she was African American, so all the stereotypes come up. When you're talking about this in different groups of ethnicity, all the stereotypes come up. And I said to an African American woman, I'm like, yeah, well, men have a G-spot too. And she goes, if I do that, I'm going to get hit in the head. And I just went, well, anyway, the blowjob's over. So it's like a win-win. She was like, good point. So, but yeah.
What are your absolute no's?
No toilet sports. Like, I will not.
So no German clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And believe it or not, Arabs. Yes, Muslims and Arabs have very, and Indian men have very, all their fetishes tend to be the opposite of what we know about them.
Well, isn't that usually the case? It's
the
opposite of
exactly. It's meant to be contrast. But when you think about it, like in a lot of Arab and Muslim countries, like the kind of work that I do is still part of torture there. Like it's still part of that. And I have a client who likes bastonado, which is where you put the feet up above their head and you cane the bottom of their feet while they're like that.
Yeah, that's like the ISIS torture.
Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure it's right there in the book. But and I remember asking, like, where'd you learn? And they're like, oh, we do this in my country. Oh, like what? When you rob a bank? Like what?
Just for recess?
Yes. When you were good. I
get an A+.
And then you get the virgins. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so some of it comes from your history.
Yeah.
A lot of men who like to be spanked, especially with things like a hairbrush or a hand, you find out they grew up, they had a nanny who may have been adorable or, and very often East German, and so they had a very heavy hand and they believed in corporal punishment. Like a lot of Eastern European nannies would hit other people's children. Like that was totally normal to do that.
It's normal to me.
So if you then, so let's say when you were 5, you had, your nanny was Anna and she was blonde and, looked like the Swiss Miss girl. And when you were bad, she spanked you. You're going to grow up and have that as a fetish.
I can see that.
Yeah. Like you're going to, I think a lot of guys dream of the St. Pauli girl as a... Yeah. A lot of people looked at the sound of music a totally different way than...
it's a different sound. It's not necessarily music.
But yeah, so that's like your fetishes all come from... Were all developed in your childhood. You find that people who were kind of like let to be like free, outside, go play, do whatever you want. They like to be restrained. They like to be confined.
That case, that should be everyone who grew up in the 70s and 60s because no one was watching the kids.
And you're not wrong, because the older clients have the simplest fetishes. The younger clients, it's so complicated.
Well, the millennials.
Yeah, the millennials. Can you do this and then do this and then do this? And I'm like, you know what? I'm in charge and I'll do what I want and you're going to like it. Well, that's not really what I'm doing. Well, then that's not how this works. And maybe you should get a girlfriend.
Like, this is not customer service.
Right, exactly. This is not like column A, column B. Like, it's not like that. When I do get requests for things I won't do, like toilet sports, I won't do anything that involves blood or involves me being naked or leaving evidence anywhere. I don't let people take pictures. I'll take pictures of them, but I don't let them take pictures of me.
Well, we're doing it now.
Mm-hmm. Well, not with a whip in my hand. Well, maybe later, but this is for educational purposes. It's different. But you understand what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And there are plenty of mistresses who will do that, who will do those kinds of things. It's not my bag, and I'm not that money hungry like that. Like some will do anything for any amount and stuff, and I'm just like, no, this is how much it costs. This is what I'll do. If you don't like it, go elsewhere. Like I don't, it's not a negotiation. I don't haggle. I don't think it's appropriate for me to lower my prices. Like I don't have a sale day.
There's no coupon.
There's no coupon. No Groupon. I don't think they'd let me on Groupon. I should check into that. Yeah. So that you could buy a series.
So if you
a package
get
deal.
a card like a Starbucks or
Yeah.
whatever, 10 coffee is free. I don't know if they do that anymore.
Punch your card.
Yeah, punch your card.
I'd get an
Except
app.
it would be actual punch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I bet you if you developed an app.
Yeah, because I'll do that in my spare time.
You have your slaves to do it for you. What's wrong with you? You have the table guy, you have the computer guy.
No, actually, that actually wouldn't be such a bad idea.
Yeah, you have the table guy, and you have the you have Bex work on top of him.
Right.
Developing.
Yeah, that'll go out for him.
See, when you first said Bex, I was thinking you're talking about Beck.
Talking about who?
Well, you mentioned
the loser guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Beck, the musician. Yeah. If I was going to
Yeah.
talk about it, Beck, it'd be Jeff Beck. Let's get that correct. And that's the first thing.
I was like, okay, that's interesting. Then you said Bex. And like,
Yeah,
that's
Bex, because it's non-binary.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
about that.
He goes by they, or he. He prefers he or they, and I was an English major, so it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's not actually, but
Sure.
it is, and it's hard for me to get used. So I just call him he.
Uh-huh.
It's easier. He wears his hair short. It works.